There was another popular dinner line at the time called Fiestaware, which everyone's probably familiar with. Coors came out with these colors before Fiesta. So it was very innovative because no one else was doing this. You would see the glass, but not the porcelain.
Do you know the pot or designer for Rosebud?
You know what? They don't know who designed the Rosebud. And it's fabulous. It's such a beautiful design. And one theory is that, well, Adolph Coors built the greenhouse and grew roses by the brewery. He loved roses. It was a family tradition for hundreds of years. They were always seen in the offices. So we feel that the inspiration for Rosebud was probably from the rose garden at Coors. So it really has a lot of, even the design has a lot of local history.
Where is that garden located?
There's a greenhouse, and it's just behind the brewery. I don't know if it's only open for special occasions, maybe certain fundraisers. I don't know. I'd have a friend that works in the greenhouse.
I've been in the greenhouse.
Yeah, yeah.
On a special tour.
On a special tour, right? Because the Coors Mansion is there also. Yeah, and that would be lovely. I've never seen it. I would love to go on a tour. Okay. Oh, I also have one of the carving knives. And I imagine that everyone in finishing tools, that the women that worked at Coors had their favorite knife. And this one has Edna P. on it. And I have a few others. There's one from Stella and a few other names. And I think this is just fabulous. You can see how worn it is and how it's been sharpened many times. And someone worked really hard with this. Now, the earlier pieces of Rosebud were not glazed on the bottom. And there's more detail in the roses and the carving. In order to save money, they, instead of firing, in the old days, they fired them twice. They'd have the color on, and then they would apply the rosebuds, paint them, and then fire it again. They decided to start doing it all at once. And so you don't have as much definition. It's still absolutely beautiful, but sometimes it runs a little bit. Most of these examples are all good. Now, in 1933, Prohibition ends. So yes, at the State Fair, you could buy Coors Golden Beer. And Coors adds barware and brewery items, mugs, ashtrays, and bar salt shakers, to name a few. These are the newer mugs, but you can kind of get the idea from that. Now this era, during the 30s, excuse me, produced the most collected Coors Pottery items. Excuse me one second. Okay. The 30s up into the 40s. I have up here an example, and if anyone wants one, I have a few copies up here of all the different marks on the potteries. Some of them were marked with an incised Coors, the bean pots and the cookie jars. Some of the Rosebud had a Coors cook and serveware sticker, and that was aluminum colored. Excuse me. I'm going to turn this off a second. Glencoe Thermal Porcelain, A. Coors Company, Coors USA, that's the chemical porcelain, Rockmont, which has a nice mountain, Mellow Tone, the Rays of Sun, it's just on and on, but many different marks. Okay. I also have a chronological list, the different production periods. Okay. Now, 1941, Coors enters World War II, and all non-essential pottery production is stopped. Non-essential pottery is dumped in landfills to make room for chemical and scientific ware for the war effort. I can't imagine throwing boxes of rosebud in the dump, but they did.
Why not stores?
Oh, I know. No, I heard stories from some people in town that they played in their playhouses with the rosebud. They dug it up out of the dumps.
I was told that they had to break the pieces.
They did at a certain point anyway.
Okay, before
My
that
husband did that.
started, and yeah, they had to break them. And I live at 30 Arapahoe and doing some construction there. If there were pieces, you can tell they're porcelain pieces of the ceramic that
Oh.
show up to this day.
Oh, what a shame.
So it just makes you
Oh, I
sick.
can't imagine
What
now.
was the reason for them breaking it? So that
Well, if they had to destroy them,
If it wasn't good, if it hadn't been
Right.
produced.
Maybe they could write it off if it was destroyed and
Oh,
it
okay.
wouldn't be resold. Maybe that's a possibility. Now, to tell you a story, it was quite a few years back. They were building some condominiums. I'm on Arapahoe and 8th, and they had dug the foundation. My husband was moving the truck around out of the backyard, and he didn't come back for an hour. He's just going around the block. Well, he came back with 60 pieces of Coors Scientific ware. Mortars, pastels, ashtrays. They made a cologne bottle that says Courtly Cologne, and it had little horse heads on it. All of those were in there. And also quite a few bricks that we think might have been from one of the chimneys or the smokestacks at the porcelain. So I'm sure that it's going to keep on turning up. You know, it was used as landfill all over town. What fun. And then when I first moved in my house, there were these little porcelain balls in the road in front of the house. And I thought, what in the world is this? And they were grinding balls. And I thought, well, I wonder if on the lunch hour the employees, you know, threw them out the window or off the roof. But there they were. They're grinding balls. They're little balls, and they were used in application to, some of them, they were used in mines for grinding the rock because they were such a strong substance. Now, I had someone from the, the Argo mine and mill. They have a museum there, and they had big grinding balls there. Someone stole them, of all things. And they contacted me, and I said, "Oh, that's what I have out in the garden. I'll get you some more for the museum." So I gave them a couple. I had them lining my garden. I wasn't quite sure what they were, and they said, "We use these in the mill."
and where's that mill at? Or where was
That's up in Idaho Springs,
that? Oh, okay.
the Argo mine and mill.
Oh, okay. That's right. That's right.
Yep.
One other question. The knife. Did they use that to?
Well, they used that to finish, probably to carve the rosebuds,
Okay.
the lines in the rosebud, and to finish pots once they came out of the mold. You probably had to get them smooth, and the seams,
Okay, that's what I was.
work on the seams.
Okay.
So, okay, now, 1946, after the war, Coors produced Anhalt and souvenir advertising ashtrays like this. This is Coors Pottery, and so are the Anhalt ashtrays. There were souvenir ashtrays from all the different towns in Colorado, and those are wonderful. Idaho Springs has a miner. It says, "Here we dug the gold." There's one from Golden, which is very rare, and I've only seen 2 of those. Why we didn't have more made for Golden, I don't know, or maybe everyone still has them. Silver Plume, Fort Collins, all sorts of advertising ashtrays. The Lion and Griffin mugs. They made wonderful clown banks for First Federal Savings and other businesses. There's one that stands upright and is really pretty ugly. And then there's one that looks like Bozo. And I believe we have one here in the collection at the Golden History Museum. Those were broken so that the children could remove the money, unless they were good at getting it out. And then not a lot of those survived. Vases and special order items were still made. Now, they discontinued most of the vases in 1950. The mugs, the early 60s. Ashtrays, late 70s. Now by 1980, they were only making a few specialty items. This is probably the employee mug for the anniversary, for the 125-year anniversary, or 100-year anniversary, excuse me. Christmas ornaments, Christmas mugs and plates. Now, by 1980, it's my understanding that they no longer made any kind of ornamental dinnerware or items at the Coors Porcelain Company after that, just the scientific ware. Now, today, the production of Coors chemical, scientific, technical, and industrial items continues. We have, and I'm not sure if these really are, tiles for the space shuttle. A gentleman passed on his collection of items to me. We have computer chips and parts. And here's some more. Insulators. Someone actually that worked at the porcelain plant, this is an employee whimsy, made a bust of Joe Coors. Okay. Now this is from a friend of mine, Mr. Hunt. These are spikes for the bottom of a golf shoe that were produced at the porcelain company. The golf clubs are great. I'm not sure if you can still get them, but I've had a few before, and they're supposed to be very good and improve the golf game. I don't know. I sure could use the help. I should try one. Mortars and pestle. Now, I don't know what parts that go inside a water faucet. Those are Coors porcelain in here. Bulletproof vest for Vietnam, for the Vietnam War. And I'm going to pass this around. This is really interesting. There's a soldier wearing the vest, standing next to a coat of armor. And here's pictures of them trying it on. And in the back, I'll turn those the other way, that's the test on the vest. I also have a missile cone, nose cone. And that was given to me. It stands about so high. And it was probably used on a huge missile. I had talked to one of the Coors, Rita Bass, about it, and she said, well, when we bought our house up in Genesee, some of these cones were out front and they're being used as planters. And Bill made, as a joke, made a comment, boy, we really have to stop this pilfering. Once these are done, they're worth $25,000. But they're probably seconds. And the one I have isn't finished, it's pink. So, there's really a lot of great history. Now, I have a surprise for you. I brought, where did it go? I brought something from my collection. And I treasure this. This was an employee whimsy. And it came from a local estate here in town. I have a little vase that was also glazed in the same color. This is a color glaze they used on the buffalo bookends, which are very rare. I've never had any of those. This is an Art Deco figurine.